Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank MP Janice for inviting me to this symposium, offering me this opportunity to share Taiwanese perspectives on the issues of international development and its implied geopolitical competition. As you can imagine, Taiwan is a unique case. Most countries in the world do not keep official relations with Taiwan, and China insists that Taiwan is not a sovereign state, but a province of the People's Republic of China. Currently, there are only 12 countries keeping diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but at the same time, Taiwan keeps 115 missions in 72 countries in the world. These missions operate like embassies and consulate generals in the world. For example, in Canada, we have a representative office, which I headed in Ottawa, and then 3 regional offices in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal, respectively. MP Janice has eloquently pointed out in his remarks that the fundamental reason for international development is, on the one hand, to alleviate poverty and create opportunities for the individuals of the recipient countries. And on the other hand, to pursue global strategic objectives. I think this has succinctly summed up the idea of foreign aid and international assistance, even though in the case of Taiwan, obstructions from the People's Republic of China have impeded Taiwan from extending its international assistance programs, which perhaps is not the challenge shared by most of the other countries. But given its unique international status, it is understandable that Taiwan prioritizes its diplomatic allies in giving its foreign aid. But although Taiwan keeps only 12 diplomatic allies today, the Taiwan International Cooperation and Development Fund, or Taiwan ICDF, which is a Taiwanese version of the USAID, has listed more than 40 countries as its recipient on annual basis. So by the same token, although Taiwan is not a member of the United Nations, it makes every effort to fulfill its international obligations and actively responds to the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. In other words, Taiwan unilaterally offers its compliance with the rules-based international norm, even though it may not be reciprocally treated. Generally speaking, when it comes to helping the developing countries, Taiwan's international assistance includes building up of infrastructures, dispatching technical teams to promote agricultural or fishery projects, sending medical teams to provide healthcare services, offering scholarship and vocational training programs for human capacity enhancement, and promoting clean energy projects to help address the climate change. But if you look more carefully into our programs, you will find that our projects to developing countries are perhaps best described as people-centered assistance, because it targets the grassroots of the recipient countries to enrich individual farmer and fishery families. They do not necessarily incur huge budget, and so do not necessarily involve local politicians, at least not directly. And therefore, it will be less likely to generate corruptions. Of course, Taiwan's foreign aid is not for charity or altruism, but we really try our best to observe the rules of good and democratic governance. Let me turn a little bit to the geopolitical competition. As I said earlier, as Taiwan prioritizes its aid to the diplomatic allies. But in the implementation of such policies, Taiwan often encounters its biggest challenge and hindrance from the People's Republic of China. China continues to intensify its effort to isolate Taiwan and to suppress Taiwan's international space. Since our incumbent President Tsai took office in May 2016, China has enticed 10 of our allies to switch their diplomatic ties and recognition to Beijing. The most recent example is the breakaway of a Pacific island state, Nauru. Just 2 days after we concluded our presidential election on January 13th, China was clearly behind the maneuver due to its displeasure of the election result, because the president-elect, Mr. William Lai, is not favored by Beijing. By so doing, China meant to intimidate Taiwan by forcing its allies, Taiwan's allies, to switch sides and to further squeeze Taiwan's international space. In fact, Beijing has been trying to enhance its influence on developing countries through the means of elite capture and debt traps, as Professor Charles Burton has mentioned in the Chinese BRI strategy. Its goal is not only to isolate Taiwan diplomatically, but also to pursue deeper strategic ambitions. For example, not long after China took over one of Taiwan's former diplomatic allies in the Pacific, the Solomon Islands, in 2019, Beijing then signed a security agreement with Solomon Islands, the Honiara, allowing China's military and police forces to be stationed in the Solomon Islands when necessary, which has strong grave concern from the United States and Australia. While we believe that Taiwan's approach to the grassroots in its international assistance carries more humanitarian phase, we hope to make our due contributions to the world, and we have long refused to conduct the so-called checkbook diplomacy. Like the title of today's symposium, The Dance, it takes two to tango, even in international development. It should be a concerted effort between the givers and the takers, so that the endeavor will not be in vain. Well, Taiwan is eager to be part of the international efforts to provide aids, including to help the after-war reconstruction in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine has lasted very unfortunately, for almost 2 years. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs statistics of Ukraine, Taiwan has contributed $41 million to help rebuild infrastructure, schools, hospitals, and churches, in addition to 580 tons of donations in kind. Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has announced further contribution of $50 million for Ukraine this year. Not much compared with Canada, but we will continue to make due contributions. Let me stop here and welcome the question. Yes.
First of all, Senator, for addressing this group here today, and congratulations on a successful election.
Thank you.
For President Lai. Very quickly, as you are aware, during the election, for those who followed very closely, a lot of disinformation, propaganda operations being perpetrated by the CCP inside Taiwan and outside to exert force on various groups, etc. The use of triads and organized crime within Taiwan specifically, this has been a problem for some time. That is also projected into Canada. I'm just curious to know comments on that and how Taiwan is going to combat that in the future.
Thank you. The triad and the organized crime compare with the foreign intervention of the election, is not that threatening. At least I'm talking about this most recent presidential election. What we have encountered, it has been there. The Chinese intervention has been there since day one. But with the advance of the technology, the AI-powered disinformation or misinformation campaign is tremendous in Taiwan. And we have found during the long campaign, we have found many covert media personas, which has a very close connection with China. And they use all the social medias like TikTok, Xiaohongshu, and YouTube or Facebook to send the messages to cultivate support for the candidate of their favor. So cognitive warfare is a real concern in Taiwan, and it doesn't only happen during the election. It happens on daily basis. So this is a challenge we face. Thank you for your question.